Welcome back to History Otherwise, where we explore the paths not taken in history. Today, we are tackling a heavy one. We're looking at perhaps the most significant what-if of the late 20th century. We have a huge stack of analysis here, medical reports, political biographies, constitutional speculations that all point to one singular frozen moment, August 31st, 1997. But the mission for this deep dive is different. We aren't here to mourn. We're here to rewrite the ending. We are exploring a world where the Princess of Wales survives the crash in Paris.
It is a premise that feels almost taboo, doesn't it? I mean, the reality is so cemented in our collective memory. But to do this justice and to really understand the mechanics of what happens next, we've structured this deep dive into three distinct phases.
Okay.
First, we need to look at the immediate aftermath, those first few frantic days where grief is replaced by, suspense. Second, we'll examine how Diana emerges not as a memory, but as a separate global power center, essentially a rival court to the monarchy.
A rival court. I like that.
And finally, we have to look at the human cost and the human gain, her profound impact on her sons, William and Harry, and the future of the British crown.
It's a massive scope. And I think for most of us, the reality of that night is just, it's a fixed point. The flowers, the crying, the silence. So to get us into this alternate track, we need to go back to the tunnel. What is our divergence point? Because we aren't changing the crash itself, right?
No, we aren't. To keep this grounded in reality, we have to respect the physics. It's just after midnight in Paris, August 31st, 1997. We have a black Mercedes entering the Pont de la Motte tunnel. It's traveling at about 65 miles per hour into that 13th pillar. The kinetic energy is identical.
So Dodi fade. Henri Paul.
In both timelines, they die instantly. The violence of the impact is the same.
So the divergence is purely medical. It's biology.
Exactly. In our timeline, Diana succumbed to a very specific injury, a tear to the pulmonary vein. It's a rare deceleration injury. It's insidious because the bleeding is internal. She was actually talking to responders initially, but her blood pressure was plummeting.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. But in this alternate timeline, the physics shift just a fraction. Maybe the impact angle's slightly different. That vein holds. The first responders arrive, and they find the princess unconscious, critically injured, broken, but she's not bleeding out internally.
So let's play that out. The sun comes up on Sunday morning.
Yeah.
In reality, we woke up to this heavy, stunned silence. The world just stopped. But in this version,
it is the opposite of silence. It is noise. It is chaos. It's a high-frequency global anxiety. The news tickers aren't saying Diana dead. They are saying princess in critical condition, fighting for her life.
it transforms the global reaction.
From a eulogy into a vigil. You don't have people mourning. You have people praying. The world enters a state of suspended animation.
It's because of a cliffhanger.
A global cliffhanger. And that changes the politics of the moment instantly. I mean, think about Tony Blair.
Right. He had just become prime minister.
He gave that famous People's Princess speech. It really defined his premiership.
She was the people's princess, and that is how she will stay. I can hear it in my head.
Exactly. But here, he can't give a eulogy. He has to give a rally. He's not memorializing a national icon. He's rallying support for a survivor. The sources suggest he would still condemn the press intrusion, the paparazzi, but instead of calling it a cause of death,
He's framing it as grievous bodily harm.
on a living victim, the anger would be white hot. It becomes a crime scene with a living witness.
And what about the royal family? Because historically, this was a disaster for them. The Queen stayed at Balmoral. She didn't come down to London, and the public turned on them. They seem so cold.
That is the key difference. In a medical crisis, the stiff upper lip actually works.
Right.
If Diana is dead, staying in Scotland looks cold. If Diana is in critical care fighting for her life, staying calm and carrying on looks like strength.
It buys them time.
It buys them time. But the most powerful visual, and you really have to picture this, is Prince Charles.
Right. In our timeline, he flew to Paris to bring her body home. A final duty.
Now rewrite that scene. He flies to Paris. He walks into the Petit-Salpêtrière hospital. He looks strained, tired, worried. He is the Prince of Wales walking in to sit by the bedside of his ex-wife, the mother of his children.
And one image.
It instantly humanizes him. It presents a fractured family, sure, but a family that is rallying together.
It averts that immediate PR crash.
Completely.
So, ironically, her survival saves the monarchy from that initial dip in popularity. On day one, the institution is actually safer.
On day one, yes, they dodge the acute crisis. But here is where it gets really interesting and where we move into our second act. By surviving, Diana creates a chronic condition for the crown.
A chronic condition, meaning it's not a heart attack, but it's something you have to live with forever.
Precisely. Think about the Charles and Camilla problem. In our timeline, because Diana was gone, Charles was able to spend the next decade slowly rehabilitating his image. He hired Mark Boland, worked the PR machine.
And eventually married Camilla in 2005.
Right. It took time, but the public eventually accepted it because, well, Diana wasn't there to object.
But if Diana is alive,
It becomes politically impossible. You cannot rehabilitate the other woman when the wronged wife is not only alive, but is now a survivor.
she has this unassailable moral authority.
She's the people's survivor.
I see what you mean. Every time Charles and Camilla try to step out for a ribbon cutting, the press just cuts to a shot of Diana recovering.
Exactly. Camilla remains the villain in a living drama. Charles ends up in this political limbo. He can't marry the woman he loves without destroying his standing.
So the queen avoids the initial anger, but the long-term strategy for the heir is completely blocked.
It's a trade-off. They avoid the explosion but get stuck in quicksand.
That is a fascinating dynamic. The monarchy survives the shock, but the heir is paralyzed.
Yeah.
Okay, let's pivot to the woman herself. Diana survives. She spends months recovering. When she comes back, what does she become?
She becomes a rival court, a non-state superpower. And the sources point to one specific event that marks this transition: the Ottawa Treaty in December 1997.
The landmine ban.
Yes. In reality, that treaty was signed 3 months after she died, and her death gave it this tragic momentum. But imagine December 1997 in this timeline. Diana has spent 3 months recovering. She's been out of the public eye.
The anticipation must be at a fever pitch.
And then the doors open at the conference hall in Ottawa.
And in she walks.
Perhaps with a cane, perhaps looking a little frailer, she walks to the podium. It's not just a diplomatic event anymore, it's a coronation.
Wow.
She proves right there that she doesn't need the palace. She has the world stage.
She's bigger than the institution she left. It's basically soft power weaponized.
And this is where the relationship with the government gets tricky. Initially, she's an asset to Tony Blair and Cool Britannia.
She makes Britain look good.
But Diana was never one to stick to the script. She operated on emotion, on moral instinct.
So what happens when her moral instinct clashes with government policy?
That is the ultimate what if. We have to look at 2003.
Iraq War.
The Iraq War.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that was the moment that split the country.
Think about her background. She's been to Angola, she's been to Bosnia, she's held the hands of landmine victims. She knows the cost of war, not the political cost, but the visceral human cost.
She would hate the idea of precision bombing.
The consensus is that she would have been fiercely opposed to the invasion, not on grounds of WMDs, that's not her lane, but on humanitarian grounds. Imagine Diana giving a primetime interview just sitting on a sofa, speaking about the children of Baghdad.
That would have been a nightmare for Tony Blair.
It would have galvanized the anti-war movement. In our world, the protests were huge, over 1 million people, but politicians could ignore them eventually.
But with the most famous woman in the world, the people's survivor, leading the charge.
It creates an unofficial opposition party based entirely on soft power.
It really highlights how much power she had just sitting there unused in our timeline.
Yeah.
And she would have modernized how that power was used too, the digital age.
Oh, absolutely. The 2000s, the rise of social media, the royal family was so slow with this.
They wanted to maintain the mystique.
Right. But Diana, she was an intuitive communicator. She would have been an early adopter. Think about the concept of Diana Direct.
Bypassing the tabloids entirely.
Exactly. In the 90s, she had to leak stories to journalists. By 2010, she's on Twitter, she's blogging, she's posting photos from a disaster zone directly to Instagram. She cuts out the middleman.
That forces the monarchy to change, doesn't it? They can't just be distant if she's out there being accessible and real.
It forces them to compete. It's not just about image anymore, it's about performance. If Diana is raising millions with a tweet, Prince Charles can't just give a speech about architecture and expect applause.
Which leads us perfectly to the third part. Because the people most affected by her survival aren't Tony Blair or the Queen. It's her sons.
This is the heart of the story, really, the impact of a mother. Let's start with William. In our timeline, he had to navigate his young adulthood with this massive void. But with Diana alive, she acts as a shield.
And a compass. Especially regarding Catherine.
Precisely. Think about Catherine Middleton entering that world. In reality, Kate had to learn the ropes mostly on her own.
But if Diana is there,
She has a mentor, the ultimate mentor. Diana protects her. She teaches her how to handle the paparazzi, how to keep a part of herself private.
It makes their courtship smoother, less isolated.
I think so. But the most dramatic shift, and the one everyone's probably thinking about, is Harry.
Harry, the spare. So much of his trauma, his anger at the press, stems from that loss in 1997.
It is the foundational trauma of his life. If she survives, that isn't there. But more importantly, Diana understands the spare dynamic better than anyone. She would have championed him.
So the big question, does Sussex it happen? Do Harry and Meghan leave?
It's highly unlikely they leave in the way they did. First, Diana would have channeled Harry's rebellion into a purpose. She would have helped him find a distinct role that wasn't just waiting for William, made him a partner in her humanitarian work.
And then comes the Meghan factor.
Yes, the sources are very clear on this speculation. Diana would have offended Meghan Markle with a ferocity the palace never showed.
Never complain, never explain. That's the palace way.
And Diana's way was make noise until they listen.
She would have been on every network defending her daughter-in-law.
That changes the whole dynamic.
Yeah.
Harry and Meghan felt isolated. But if they have Diana, they have a power base. They don't need to flee to California.
So you might see the family split into two courts. William and Kate doing traditional duties, and Harry and Meghan joining Diana as this global humanitarian super wing.
A rival branch, but still inside the tent. It prevents the schism. It creates a modern tension within the family, but it keeps them together.
So let's zoom out. We have a monarchy that's more accountable, a family that's less fractured, a political landscape that's more challenged by conscience. Sounds better.
In many practical ways, yes. But we have to ask the difficult philosophical question. The myth versus woman debate.
Go on. How we remember her versus who she actually was.
Yes. In our timeline, Diana died a secular saint. She is frozen at age 36. Forever beautiful, forever the victim. That myth is a powerful, unifying force.
And if she lives?
She ages. She makes mistakes. She dates people the public might not like. She takes political stances like Iraq that alienate half the country. She becomes a real complex person.
So we lose the icon.
We lose the icon, and we lose that moment of national unity in 1997. That week of grief changed Britain, made the country more emotionally open. If she survives, that catalyst is gone. The evolution is slower. It's a chronic friction rather than a sharp shock.
That is such a profound trade-off. We gained a legend, but the boys lost a mother.
And the monarchy lost its greatest potential modernizer. The trade-off is this. History gave us a tragedy that created a myth. The path not taken offers us a woman who is powerful, flawed, and relentlessly real.
Relentlessly real. I love that. It's hard to say which world is better, but it certainly would have been a very different 21st century for the House of Windsor.
Absolutely. The monarchy would have survived, but it would have had to work much harder for its survival.
Well, that brings us to the end of this deep dive. It's a lot to think about. How one heartbeat can change the fate of nations and families.
It really is the ultimate reminder that history isn't just dates and battles. It's people. And sometimes, it's just luck.
Thank you for listening to History Otherwise. If you enjoyed this exploration of the paths not taken, make sure to subscribe. We'll be back next time with another deep dive into what might have been, because history might have turned otherwise.